Where have all the cowboys gone? Hello, everybody, and welcome to your new dad. This is very, very exciting. Normally, I'm by myself, Tom Gillis.
Yes.
Just kidding. His name is... Do you go by Thomas?
Go with whatever you call me.
Tommy boy?
Tom works.
Gillis?
What you talking about, Gillis?
This is my friend Tom Gillis, and he is my first guest on your new dad. Why did I choose Tom? Well, Tom's a very unique individual with a really cool story.
I was hoping you'd call me special.
No, I would never say that. I mean, honestly...
You remember when special was a good word?
But for real, though.
Yes.
If you were a little boy right now in the public school system...
Yeah.
I'd
be special.
What kind of meds do you think they'd put you on?
I probably would run away from them, but when I was in school, I liked being called disabled. I thought it was like I was learning disabled. I thought that was like a badge of courage. Like,
are you?
I was hopeful to ride the short bus.
Were you really? Do you have a learning disability?
Yes, I'm very dyslexic and very ADD before ADD, so it was just HD.
You got in early on
high
ADD.
definition.
Yeah,
it was like high definition.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And do you mind if I ask how old you are now, Tom?
Wow, I am in my last year of the 40s, yo.
Whoa, so the wrong side of 40.
Yes.
That's a little scary.
Well, it is, but it comes with experience.
I'm still on the right side of 40.
Are you really?
I'm a baby, dude. I'm like the youngest guy you know, 44.
Out the door.
I'm a child.
I guess. Okay.
So let's get down to it. All right.
Let's do it.
I have known Mr. Tom for, I think, like 17 years. We have wives that have known each other since college. Roomies.
Yes.
And they surfed together. They ran track and field together. And obviously they chose incredible men to spend their lives with.
Well, I did have to vet you. I was in there first, just FYI, and I had to vet him. And I think I was a little raw at first, and that was just because I knew I'd have to hang out with you for the rest of my life.
It was a little rough. You know, I was super nervous. You're in love with this girl. You're meeting her friends and her friends' boyfriends and their husbands. Actually, you guys might have all been married.
Yeah, we were married.
At that point.
Yeah, I don't think you came to the wedding in 05. No.
We went to a shark-infested place to surf, and these guys kept talking about attacks that had occurred there. I put my wetsuit on backwards, and they were like, dude, we thought you surfed.
Cool.
Yeah, they're like, cool, beat it, cool.
Yeah.
They gave me a really hard time, but looking back, I guess that's what they call hazing.
A little bit, and I think you gotta make people jump through hoops to make sure that they're worthy, and you are worthy, John. You are worthy.
I was very much in love, confused, and nervous. Wanted to make a good impression. I think these guys knew that I was a bit of a strange duck. And they just wanted the best.
Special. We're going to use the word special.
They wanted the best for their friend Gigi.
Yeah, we did.
But enough about that. So we've known each other
quite some time.
Long time. And it's been beautiful.
Been on surf trips together.
We have been on surf trips. Tom Gillis.
Yes.
Back in a time called the 1990s, was a young man from Wisconsin.
Correct, sir. You are correct. And
did you grow up in a rough neighborhood?
I don't think there are rough neighborhoods in Wisconsin, let's be honest. But I grew up carefree, skateboarding. I was a rebel, listening to that punk rock music.
And did you enjoy skating bowls, smoking bowls, and skating bowls?
So I was super blessed. There was a place around me called the Turf Skate Park. It was the mecca where all the old skaters, everyone came to visit because it was these deep, deep bowls. And I learned how to skate transition. And I learned that you can't say tranny anymore now, too. It's just crazy. But I learned to skate tranny, and I loved it. And I still love skating transition.
They called it... We did call it
a tranny. Yeah.
Yeah.
We skate. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. You skated street or you skated transition.
So,
tranny,
so any traditional sports or skateboarding to start with?
No. I mean, I baseball, soccer, but when you hit puberty. And whatever you're doing right there, it sticks with you. I mean, the music, punk rock is always still my heart. And then skateboarding, it was just, you had to earn it. You skated all around town. People didn't like you. People were always telling you to beat it. Cops were telling you this wasn't a sport. And that made us want to do it even more. I
can do a varial, but I can't ollie. Does that make me kind of weak sauce in the skate? And I push Mongo.
Oh, Mongo's the painful one. But, again, everything can be forgiven as long as you're doing it,
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you're skating. Are you dreaming about maybe becoming a pro skater someday? Because it's the peak. We got gators.
Dude, we had
Gator Rogalski. There's my favorite skater. Things worked out good for Gator.
He killed it. Too soon. No.
Hey now. I still want to
Search for Animal Chin. I watched every single day after school in 6th grade, and then you'd pick your favorite Bones Brigade. I was Mike McGill, and then you just go.
Sorry to say this, but the final scene.
Yes.
They're on the
big ramp in Guadalupe, between two junkyards.
Do you know where it is?
No, where is it?
Brother, it's right here.
Really?
These are the two junkyards.
Oh,
it was right here.
Right there in Oceanside.
Yes, it's right. It's about half mile that way. And now there's a lot of people that live there and drink drugs.
Yes, wow.
Anyways.
So I love skateboarding. Problem, Wisconsin, cold winter. Snowboarding was what we did in the winter, and I wasn't good in school. In fact, being labeled dyslexic and disabled, you just kind of were like, I don't like this. I'm out of here. And so I was good at snowboarding, and that's where I found freedom, and that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So when I finished high school and it was my choice, I just was like, I'm gonna disappoint my family, my parents, and I love you guys, but I'm going snowboarding.
But snowboarding's pretty dang new at the time, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was just all coming out in the 80s, late 80s, 90s. I mean, it was happening, and I got swept up. I moved to Lake Tahoe when I was just 18 years old, and right place, right time. Had a couple little local sponsors, loaded up my truck full of gear, was slinging stuff, was just trying to make it happen. And
slinging meth or
no boots.
Oh, boots. Okay.
Things that actually made money. And but yeah, so right place, right time. I got swept up in that industry. It was going from $1 million industry to $1 billion industry. And just I was that crazy kid.
Yeah, what were you known for? So and also I want to know.
Yeah.
There's no amateur tour.
Right.
What day do you become a pro? How do you know you're a pro? And what were you known for? What was the day you were like, I'm a pro? Was it a paycheck?
Yeah. So I remember getting my first free snowboard, and I sent out pictures. So we took pictures, and I put them on a thing and went to Kinko's and Xeroxed it and sent all these letters out, would you sponsor me letters? And I remember someone gave me a snowboard, and I was like, I almost got the tattoo of the company on my arm, because I was like, core, right? It was also the Bad Boy Club, if anyone remembers all of that stuff. Exactly. So we were really confused.
Bad Boy Club for life.
Exactly. So then I started getting a little bit of money, some product, and really it was when I got in Tahoe and it was in the scene. I got my big break was TB5, was in the movies, and then all of a sudden I was traveling the world and living the life. It was awesome.
Is there any other pro from Wisconsin at this time?
I mean, we had some Nate Cole, Jake Blattner. We had Dale Rayberg. These were guys that were kind of a little bit before me, but they made a way in the wilderness and made it all it could happen. And a lot of people were like, I mean, even my parents, they were like, look, if it doesn't happen in a year, you got to come home and go to college. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. And then in a year, it happened, right? It happened for me. I started getting paid all this money and started traveling. And what I was known for was just passion. I was living life, going for it. Send it. Before it was sending it, I was sending it.
So at the time, it's not in the Olympics.
Right.
It's kind of newer. Skiers are blah, blah, blah. You still have a lot of mountains where you're probably not even allowed on.
Yeah, there was that, yeah.
But you were discriminated against in a very real way.
Yeah, but you could either be a victim or you can be victorious. And
Have you got through that?
Dude, I'm not a victim.
That's great.
I think being a victim, really that mindset is demonic, and it's wrong thinking, man.
Skiers can be nasty humans, can't they?
But the skinny skiers. When snowboarding really helps skiing, and skiing really helps snowboarding. So I'm gonna when
skinny skinny skis.
Well, yeah, they had the skinny sticks, and
Oh,
they
I
were
thought
all
you
like,
meant, versus obese ones.
no. Like when it was, they hated us, and we were knuckle draggers, and we had to get along. But then I really think both sports helped each other a lot with style.
So there's a contest scene, but how do you make money as a pro snowboarder? Do you get photo incentives? Is it being in a video part? Is it
Yes.
just being out on the mountain and being a good ambassador for the brands?
A little bit of everything. Yeah. So there was obviously some contests. I mean, there was the U.S. Open. There was a half pipe contest and all that stuff. There was big airs. There wasn't slope style yet, but there was just the ability to get exposure because of the magazines. What were magazines? Kids might ask, but we used to have these magazines. They come once a month. They tell you who are cool, what to buy, what to do.
Magazines were
everything. I mean, I had posters on my wall of people.
No social media.
No.
I mean,
no.
It was everything.
Yeah. So you had the magazines, and then you had VHS copies.
Also everything.
Everything. You got your video, you watched it. I mean, we put, Animal Chin in the VCR over and over again, all these movies. And that was the thing. So I got into some movies. I got into TB5 was my first cameo. I really didn't have that many sponsors. And then my phone started blowing up because I was a nobody from nowhere that all of a sudden got this video part in the big movies. And then that was it. I wrote my ticket and I just kept riding that, getting exposure, doing what we do now as influencers, but like just being brand ambassadors. Yeah.
And this run goes from 18 to like almost 28.
Yeah.
Being a professional.
Yeah. So I was like the first guy to do the loop. Tony Hawk was the first skateboarder. I was the first snowboarder. I had the biggest air out of the half pipe for a long time. I have the world record with a bomb drop.
Bong rip?
World
record?
Bomb. You can't say that anymore.
No, don't. You can say it here.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to say it here.
You say it, bro.
It's been said.
So I don't want to toot your own horn, but here's the deal. I met Tom, and he was a newish surfer when I met him. We met through our wives, and he was really good at surfing, even though he had just started. And I was like, oh, this guy's got a lot of energy. He's interesting. and it came up, obviously, that, this guy was a pro snowboarder. And I was like, all right, whatever. Dude's from Wisconsin. What does that even mean? But over the years, and even then, anytime I would mention your name in circles of like the heaviest snowboarders in the world, they knew who he was. Yep. And it was like, I'm assuming everything, like with anything, the world of surfing, any athletic pursuit, reputation is everything.
Yeah.
And it was always like, oh, Gillis. And I was like, whoa, this dude's kind of gnarly, but I didn't want to tell you that. Because,
Yeah, we were cool.
We're cool, bro.
Yeah, you didn't want a fanboy.
No, I was just like already upset that you surf better than me after I've been doing it almost 30
Dude,
years.
I will never forget that day at the Rivermouth in Santa Cruz, man, where it was like all the locals were waiting for the tide to get right, and we were just out there, and it was with our other buddy Josh and our friend Mike, and we were surfing our brains out. We were getting barrels, like drop. Well, I was, you weren't. But
beat it, maggot! Santa Cruz is gnarly. You got to be careful, dude.
It's their birthright.
It's their birthright, dude.
Yeah,
and know this: there is an east side, a west side, and we were unfamiliar. I was unfamiliar.
We were in the Midtown.
And that's when you get in trouble.
It was serious. But we were surfed out. We surfed that so good for 2 hours all by ourselves, and then the locals paddled out and, wanted to fight. And, again, I was exhausted. I had my goods, so we were out. But that was such a great day.
It was a great day.
Those lines will go down in history.
So when I meet you, you're a little older, a little wiser. You're not a pro snowboarder. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you your lifestyle at this time as a pro snowboarder. Are you getting after it buck wild in the party scene?
I was known as going buck wild. I was
ecstasy, a lot of raves.
I think I was just
dancer.
No, I just think I was always going for it, sending it, and so when you send it, you crash a lot, and you need some pick me ups, little snoochy boochies.
And they were giving the pills out.
They were handing a lot of things out,
back in the day.
And I was addicted to all sorts of substances. So I bet
you were really good at substances too.
I mean, if you're going to get up, you got to get down.
I mean, it's an athletic pursuit.
And we weren't athletes then. We were rock stars.
Rock stars.
It was.
No, it was.
Yeah.
Winter X Games starts coming. Did you ever try to get in the Winter X Games?
I was in the X Games. I ended up breaking my board in practice, and I didn't bring 2 boards. I was such a kook. Like, I didn't even think. Like, I had the second board. I had multiple boards, but they were at the hotel, which you couldn't get to. And so, I broke my board in practice, and then I rode with a broken board, and I got 15th because you don't have the same pop.
What could have been if you just had that extra board?
I mean, let's be honest. I was a one-hit wonder. I was really good at blowing up.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. It's just.
So you're in the scene, and snowboarding at the time, I mean, it really is blowing up. In my high school, like, everybody was into snowboarding.
Yeah.
Huge deal. Even the girls were into it, getting the gear, wearing the gear. It's not cheap.
No.
I grew up in South Orange County. People had money, and we were looking at people like you going like, what in the world? Like, if a guy at my high school could do some just barely...
Yes, yeah. Yeah, you had you had money.
Like,
you had
I got
sponsors.
sick at snowboarding.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was traveling the world. I was living my dream, and it kind of was turning into a nightmare because, again, the party scene was real. And I think you get in and you think you can control it, and you can control it for a moment. Like, you can be high functioning, and then all of a sudden... you're doing things that you regret, and you're full of just shame, man. That's the game. And then you don't have a problem. You only have a problem if you try quitting. And I wasn't about to quit because I was living it. And I got in all sorts of trouble. I turned out one day I woke up, realized I was an addict, and I was like, oh, no one likes a quitter. So I just kept going, And I was really broken.
When you say an addict, do you think? What was the cycle? Was it like in the evening alcohol, in the morning stimulants, or was it just weed all day?
It was wake up, hit the bong.
Yeah.
I would call it a hippie speedball. It was a bong hit and some espresso, and then go ride, and then smoke during the day, and then of course your joints hurt because you come up flat or you went too big, and then got a pain relief. And so it was a cyclical cycle. And then I always say fame's addictive. Women are addictive. Like all these things. I really was living my dream, and it was turning into a nightmare, and I didn't know how to get off the ride. I couldn't get off the ride. In fact, I kept doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, and it wasn't going to happen. And it was a trip because I was actually I won the U.S. Open. I broke this world record, and then I fly to Japan, and I'm competing for all this money. And this guy who was the biggest snowboarder in my generation ends up passing away at this contest. And we were just being stupid. Like when you got 20 of the best snowboarders in the room, we're partying, we're having a good time, we're getting... Yeah, we're sending it, and he ends up falling down some stairs and dying. And then I start asking the questions like, "What's life all about?" And like,
I'm sorry to stop you there.
Yeah, go.
I think I know. Was Todd there, or he just left?
No, Todd was there. Todd was one of the first.
Was it an escalator? Or the side in a hotel?
Yeah, so it was inside of a hotel.
Yeah, this is such a sad
story.
Yeah,
and Jeffy ends up sliding down the banister on his butt. Stupid human trick. We've all done it. And he's like, check this out. And he falls 4 stories to his head, and he was dead. And then I'm tripping out because I'm in Japan, and all this is happening. And Todd was one of the first guys I I saw him, and we just wept and held each other. Yeah.
Right. We're talking about Todd Richards.
Yeah.
Who,
there goes Todd Richards.
If you know, you know.
Watch him as he goes.
He's a great man.
Amazing snowboarder. Still is. Ripping.
Incredible dude.
Switches goggles every run.
Yes. He's the best.
Love you, Todd.
So that happens, and I remember Todd telling me I think he had a brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Billy. Yeah.
Everybody just in shock and despair. You guys are all young men at the time.
Yeah. Yep. Living the life. Yeah. The dream.
So that was sort of like, what am I doing?
Yeah, so I fly out of Japan, I pop some pills, drink some alcohol, jump on a plane, and I am out of it. And I wake up and I'm just like, what's life all about? What's life all about? And I'm like haunted by the reality that that's where I'm going to end up, because I really didn't care anymore. Like when you're an addict, you realize like you're doing all these things just to chase a high that's never sustains you. And like I was living a dream. It was turning into a nightmare. I was super messed up. I couldn't tell anyone because I felt guilty. Like, everyone's like, you're traveling the world, you have all this money, you have all this fame. Like, why wouldn't you be happy? And you're like, bro, it doesn't satisfy me. There's more. And I know there's more. And that's frustrating because I don't know what it is. And I was sunglasses during the day, at night. And I remember coming home, getting out of my car, just being a mess from this trip. And, in a dark place, really didn't want to live anymore. And my neighbor came out and asked me if I was all right. And it was a trip because this guy was what I consider Ned Flanders. He was a Christian. He was like, really clean and nice. And I didn't like him, in fact. And he was always kind to me, but I was like tripping out. And he walked over, asked me if I was okay. And I said, no, my life's a mess. And I don't even know how I turned into an addict, and things are going not good. And I don't know. And he just told me his story. He told me like a little bit about like a transformation that happened. He met this guy that changed everything about him. And then he was like, he started talking about Jesus. And I was like, this is weird. And then he just said this one thing. He's like, man, I challenge you to ask him if he's real. And if he is, listen to him. If he's not, I'm a kook. Don't listen. Don't talk to me anymore. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, and I felt challenged to just ask God if he was real. Like, so I went in my room and I said, all right, Jesus, if you're real, I'll go to church next week. You make me cry. If not, get the hell out. And again, the reason why this was a trip was because what was I doing when I was popping those pills and drinking that alcohol? I was trying to feel something. And I was so empty and void of feelings, I couldn't cry. I blew my knee, I didn't cry. I got knocked out all the time, I didn't cry. I was a man, real men don't cry. And I couldn't cry. I couldn't. And in fact, I thought it was stupid that I even said that thing. Like, I was like vulnerable for a second. And so I like got really hard again. And again, started doing the things I was always used to doing. And I remember waking up on Sunday going, am I going to go? Am I not going to go? Am I going to go? And I was like, well, I'll prove that God doesn't exist, and then I'll go down with my life. And of course, the drugs, I started doing drugs early in the morning, and then went to church and stood in the back like, there's no God. Like, this is so dumb. I can't believe I drove there. And the music started and I didn't cry. I wept like uncontrollably, couldn't breathe anymore. And in fact, wept for a full hour, like couldn't breathe. And the people come up, are you okay? Can we pray for you? I'm like, I'm out of here. What'd you guys do to me? Like, this is a trick. Like, maybe it's the drugs. I don't know. So I jump in my truck and I like start driving and I go, where can I hide from you? If you are real, where can I hide from you? And I just knew I couldn't. I pull over and I go, what do you want from me? And he goes, I want your life. And I was like, fine, like, here's my hopes, my dreams, my fears, my failures. I'm giving it all to you. Just make sense of it. And in that moment of surrender, I'll tell you, for the first time in my life, I was filled with joy, and I was sober just like that. I was sober-minded, filled with joy, and I was transformed. And then everyone tripped out because they're like, you're the party guy. You're the guy that does all this stuff. What happens? And of course, I take all the boobs off my board. I take all the junk off my board, the weed, and I put a cross on my board. And that was actually the downfall. Sponsors, once you make a profession of faith, they don't care if you have faith in your weed or your booze or whatever. But the second you make a claim that you are following Christ, they hate you, bro. And they just they turned on me.
So thank you for sharing that. That scene during that time, I mean, the way you were living, would you say that was pretty common? Like, there wasn't a lot of Christian sober snowboarders, was there?
No.
Pro?
No.
There wasn't even like...
I mean, I remember just getting, video clips or pictures because I was hammered and and they're like, and at the Arctic Challenge, I put a deer pelt on my belt and snowboarded in the half pipe, and it was because I was hungover, but everyone was doing do-rags and I was like, oh, you think you're manly? Watch this. It was a full deer pelt.
I think that's a great call.
Yeah. I was like, you think you're big?
Yeah, you're in the snow, you're in the mountains, deer pelt makes sense. So you have this radical transformation, and you're saying that you felt like you were being spoken to. What does that mean?
Well, I just encourage everyone, ask God if he's real. There's so much noise and you have to get alone. And is this it? Is money going to make you happy? For me, money didn't make me happy. Fame didn't make me happy. Women didn't make me happy. the only thing that filled me with joy that's beyond all understanding was Christ. And so then I'm like, am I going to deny that? Like, because for the first time in my life, I'm feeling free. I'm feeling full of joy, not happy. Happy depends on what's happening. This was joy, like complete joy, supernatural. And I was just set free for the first time. And then I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I am higher than I've ever been in my life. And I know that I'm fully, for the first time in my life, I'm fully me.
I think that's incredible. But was there any part of you that's like, business strategy wise, did you have a manager that's like, hey, maybe pump your brakes, kid? Things are going. You bought a home. Your neighbor, was that the neighbor from the house that you had bought? Had you bought a home?
No, not yet. Not yet. I was about to buy a home. Okay. This was the neighbor that I was renting a house. But, and I had a great agent, Bob Klein, and he was like, cool, if it works for you, man, I'm stoked. But at the same time, he was just like, he was managing Danny Cass, all these other people, and he was like, cool, whatever floats your boat, like you're rad. But then a problem happens because all of a sudden people start talking, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, what happened to Gillis? Like,
you're the life of the party. Like, we want old Gillis.
Yeah.
We want old Gillis.
Yeah, like, let's see debauchery. And but I was like filled with joy, and I was done smoking. I was, in a minute, all the addictions were gone. And I was like, I'm done smoking, I'm done drinking, I'm fully alive, and I don't want to go back. And sponsors found out about it, and then they were like, we got a problem. And I was like, whoa, what's up? And so I have a meeting with the sponsors, and they're like, we heard you were proselytizing on the slopes. And I'm like, what does that word mean? I don't even know what that word means. Because I'm not like a Jesus freak. I'm just going like, something happened and I can't explain it. And so I don't know what to do, but I'm just going to be me. And they saw a cross on my board, and that convicted them. And so then they were like, you have to knock that off. And I'm talking 6-figure contracts, and they're going, if you don't take that off, you're fired. And my agent's laughing because he's like, can you say that again? And like with the tape recorder, like, we're gonna fire you because you're a Christian. And they're like, yeah, you can't be a Christian, like, and be a snowboarder. And I was like, okay. And they were like, I was like, did you guys have a problem when I had tits on my board, or did you have a problem when I had like
nobody has a problem with tits?
Or did you have a problem when I had this on my board, or that on my board, or F you, or no. And you could put anything on your board, but you can't put that. And I was like, dang. And so they're like, you have to make a choice. You either going to deny Christ, take that off, or you're gonna lose the contract. And I said, well, how many days do I got? And they're like, we'll give you a couple days. And so
that was a literal conversation.
Oh, totally. And wow. We get off the phone with these agents, and they go, my buddy is like, yeah, we're gonna sue them. Like, they can't do that. They can't terminate you. And I was like, okay, well, like, let's just see. And I already was praying that God would open doors and close doors, and I felt he was closing this door. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna walk away. I think this is the door that he's opening for me, and I'm going to pursue him and his plan, not my plan. Because whenever I pursue my plan, it doesn't work out so good. I'm going to follow Christ. And so I walked away from 6 figures, and I've never regretted it.
And 6 figures back then, I mean, that is good money.
Good. Like,
I remember,
like with inflation, that's like $1 billion.
I made $52,000 in 2003, and I thought I was making $200,000. I was like the king. I got this, guys, at the bar. Daddy's got this.
Yes.
I'm making $52,000 a year.
Yeah.
How much longer, realistically, do you think you could have continued to be a professional snowboarder? Yeah,
I was already in it for a good decade. So I mean, look at Todd Richards, man. That guy.
That's a great point.
I mean, that guy can do a MIG twist on command. Like, Todd, do a MIG twist. Boom. Did you have a plan for after snowboarding? Like, no. Regardless of becoming a Christian, becoming a follower of Christ, were you like, maybe I'll work in the industry? I mean, I was open to anything. I love snowboarding, and I still love snowboarding. It's given me so much, and I'm so thankful. But I didn't really know what I was gonna do, and I just knew that something needed to change, and it did. And so I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just being obedient. Yeah. So you meet, can I say your lovely wife's name? Absolutely. I call her Shannoni. Yeah. But her name is in fact Shannon. Yeah. And Shannon's awesome. She's cool. She surfs. She's an incredible athlete.
and you meet her. Is she a Christian?
I met her with a group of people. I didn't know much about her. I knew she was beautiful, and yet I swore off girls because, when I made that transition, when I started following Jesus, I was like, I gotta change my ways. And so I swore off girls for a year, just to detox, really. And then I ended up meeting her with a group of people, and I was like, dang, she's beautiful, but I was like, not going to pursue her. And yet all the friend groups were all hanging out. And so I meet her one day. The next day we're going to eat some food. And so we all hang out together and we're talking. I'm like, this girl's amazing. And I ended up picking her up with my roommate because we lived on the same side of town and we were going across to a different place. And so I picked her up and we were all in a car together. And as I went to drop her off, I audibly heard God say, go pray with your wife. And I'd been a Christian now for like 8 months.
You audibly heard God. Was there acid involved ever? Any LSD? Any hallucinogenics?
Yes, and
okay.
Back in the day, there may have been, but this was I knew it was God, and that's the crazy thing because I've never heard God like that, like audibly. And he said, "Go pray with your wife." I just met this woman, and I'm like tripping because I've never prayed with anyone. So now I'm like, I'm like obedient. I'm walking out the door, and she like thought I was gonna maybe kiss her because we weren't on a date. And how do you say like, "Can I pray with you?" Like that's so weird. And I never prayed with anyone out loud, so I just walked her to the door, and I froze, and I was like, dang it. And she dipped, and then I walked back to the car, and my roommate, who we got a little loose, we did some hallucinogenics younger. We stole a fire truck when we were younger. We got into some trouble. Anyways, he was with me, and so he knew me well. He wasn't a believer, and I was. And so I was like, dude, that's the girl I'm going to marry. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, God told me. And he's like, okay, if God is real, don't pursue her. And I was like, you're right. I'm not going to pursue her. I'm gonna trust God, and so I'm gonna prepare my life for my wife, and that's what I did. Is I just like was preparing my life for my wife, and then so I didn't pursue her. And 8 months later, we bumped into each other in Santa Cruz, and we talked, and then it was on.
That's cool. That's awesome. And it's been how many years you've been married?
Coming up on 19 years.
And how many kids?
We got 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you meet her, and you're done with the snowboarding. That life. You're still involved with it because you have connections, you know people.
Yeah.
But you begin to work construction.
Yep.
And were you always a handyman? You are around my house, by the way. This guy, don't let him into your house, ladies. Because if you're like me, who has no mechanical aptitude, and your wife thinks you're pretty terrible when it comes to that, and she's correct. If a handyman comes in, they'll just stare at him while he fixes things in your own house. And it's emasculating for a guy like me, but I let it happen because otherwise nothing gets done.
Yeah, so I didn't really have any skills other than snowboarding, but I met a guy at church who was in construction, and he just started teaching me and training me. And I learned early on in life that if you share the fame and take the blame, you're going to go far.
What does that mean?
So like you can only go as far as your team. So you tell everyone how great they're doing, and you encourage everyone, and then leaders take the blame. Like you're not going to blame other people. You're going to take responsibility for the team falling short. And as soon as you start taking responsibility, people will push you to the front. Because I had guys that worked like 20 years in the industry, but they were like, oh my gosh, this guy's willing to fight for us, willing to give us can tell us how great we're doing. And then when it hits the fan, like he's going to take it on the chin. Like he's our leader. They push me to the front.
I think that's great. Taking ownership. Absolutely. And I remember watching you at the time, and I was like, this is cool. Like you were working on some very beautiful homes. Yeah. And I was like, man, he's not that far into it. You went to, is it Ecuador?
Yeah, went to Ecuador. We were wanted to learn Spanish. I was flipping. I went from building houses from foundation up to then flipping houses, and then the '08 crash happened, and I always was like, man, I really need to learn Spanish. And my wife's like, let's go to Ecuador. It has great waves. We could surf, and you can learn Spanish. And then We went to a surf school that was teaching Spanish, and then ultimately the owner found out I was in the trades. He was building a house, he needed help, so I ended up building his house in Ecuador. And I had like 15 guys underneath me, and
That's
I was
awesome.
surfing in the morning and the afternoon and working.
And you come home from Ecuador, did the Espanol get any better? Because I've never heard you use it.
Well, so it's construction Spanish, so like I can't tell you what I'm feeling or what I know, but if I need this wall built and this plumbing done, I can tell you what to do, where to put the pipas.
And is there any regrets at this point? Like, oh, I'm not in the snowboard industry anymore. All the cool things that came with being a professional.
None. Absolutely none.
Not athlete. What were you? Just a professional snowboarder. The coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
I'm sure like the people you met just through that, and now you're in this different world. You're totally content with, I'm now a married man.
Yeah.
I got to get up early.
Yeah.
I'm pounding nails.
Yeah.
You were good with it. There wasn't any part of you that was like, bro.
I think you've had a little bit of fame, and I don't know why anyone would want it. Like, I mean, honestly, like it's a drug, and it never fulfills you, and it's funny.
Oh, I disagree. Give me more. That's what our culture wants and what we need.
Again, I was happy to be the average Joe. Really, just like getting after it, and I didn't care. Like it's pretty funny. I was just golfing with some people from Texas, some good friends, and my friend knew what I did, and he was like, "Oh, Tom, tell them what you did." I was like, "Well, I did some things in snowboarding," and they're like what? And I'm like, "Well, like I won the U.S. Open, best trick of the U.S. Open, and I set this world record, and was the first guy to do this." And they're like, "Oh, that's a mic drop." And I'm like, "I guess, but whatever."
Yeah, it's a cool thing to have in your back.
No one remembers. No one remembers.
That's true.
Yeah.
Except those people that I run into from time to time, and they're like, "I'm to 1994. I remember the blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Yeah, that was pretty sick."
It's I'm where did all the cowboys go? They're still here. They're still riding, but people don't remember them.
So, would you say at this point, when you're working construction, you're with your wife, you're beginning to start a family, is God the number one thing in your life?
Yes, he was and is and will always be. He is who he says he is. And so like for me, like I'm just like when things are going good, it's because of God. When it's going bad, it's because I'm an idiot and I'm like swerving and I'm doing stupid things my way. Mm-hmm. And so I've just learned like my ways are not his ways and his thoughts are not my thoughts. And so I just try to get in alignment with him and doors open. And so like when I was doing construction, all of a sudden, I had an uneasiness in my spirit, and I knew that uneasiness, I call it a stirring, like, there's something else that you're supposed to be doing and you're trying to figure that out. Well, I had a buddy that was like, hey, let's just pray for 40 days and that God would either change your occupation or attitude. And so I'm like, all right, let's circle a calendar, let's get after it. We talk every day, we pray, we'd read scripture. And on day 40, I get a phone call from a vice president of a huge radio station. He's like, how would you like to do school assemblies? And of course, I'm like, how do you get my phone number? Like,
I'm talking elementary, junior high, high school, all three?
Everything. Yeah, they're doing nationwide school assemblies, and they heard I had a crazy story. And of course, I'm going like, this is day 40. Like this what a quinky dink, right? Like this
Do you remember how you treated speakers during assemblies when you were in high school?
Yeah.
Was there anything in your brain that was like, oh boy?
Well, so I thought I had a leg up because I'm like, dude, I would mock those people. Like I would make fun of them. And so at least I was a class clown. I was always goofing around. But the power of the mic, when you have the mic, like I'll call kids out. I have fun. They have fun. Like I've had kids walk out and I'm just like using them as bits as in the thing of like, this is funny,
So you do it. You jump on.
Yeah, I just, because I was convinced like God heard me and I was committed to like his ways. And so he was changing my attitude and he was changing my occupation.
But at the time, you've always been like this since I've known you. Extremely social, very good. But were you any hesitancy? Like, am I a public speaker?
Well, for sure. Well, they were like, we think you got it. And we're going to they threw me in front of a crowd. Like, I mean, they were like, here's 500 kids, like sink or swim. And I remember just wanting to throw up. And then I get out there and I'm like, okay, ba 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 ba, and I'm doing the thing, and I'm like, whoa, that was really cool. And they're like, you got it. Like, there's some things you can work on, but you got it. And I was like, I don't know what I got. But and so then I start doing school assemblies, and I'm trying to do construction and school assemblies, and it's crazy. And ultimately, about 2 years into it, I start hearing God again through reading of the scriptures and in prayer. He's like, you need to quit doing construction. And I was like, but I got a mortgage, I got kids, I got all this stuff. Like, we always tell God what we got. He knows everything. Mm-hmm. I think it's ridiculous, but we do. He was, every time I would come to pray, and he was like, do you trust me? And I was like, I trust you. And that happened for like 2 or 3 months where it was just, do you trust me? And I was getting agitated and angry and frustrated. And I'm like, oh, dude, that's like, what are you doing, Lord? And I said, fine, I will. Here, I'll stop doing construction. And if you want me to be in ministry, which is just work for the Lord, but like, if you want me to be in ministry full time, like, if it's your will, it's your bill. I'm not asking anyone for anything. I hate snake oil salesmen. I'm not selling anything. I'm just being obedient, and instantly doors open. Like, I mean, I get hooked up shortly with the Whosoevers. I get hooked up with other ministries, and I'm just traveling and speaking and doing public schools, doing rehab. Like, it was just
when
doors
you're
open.
In the public schools, you're not preaching the gospel.
No,
right?
I'm motivational in nature, but like, really, I'm talking about mindset. And whatever your mind focuses on, you do. It's that easy. What you think, you do. And so I have secular speak or whatever, but it's really the story of transformation. And again, the Bible talks about, do not be transformed by the renewing of your mind, and really what you think about, you do. And so you're not supposed to focus on this world. You're supposed to focus on him, and he'll direct your paths. And so it's been, God's word is my all, and it continues to never come up empty. It's powerful.
That's cool. When you're out there in all those schools, what was your general vibe of the health, mental health, spiritual health of these kids out there in public schools?
Yes.
Did you get an impression?
So I started before the pandemic, and I think you saw anxiety, depression. You saw some things pre-vid, but then the acceleration happened. Like, I saw it, like, okay, high school kids were dealing with anxiety and depression and all this stuff. And like, there was a little bit of it, like, and I'm talking like 2016, 17, like, you saw a little bit of it, but then you started seeing it go younger and younger. And all of a sudden, like, I was like, I really like high schools, because I'm just like, hey, if you want to learn, great. If not, that's fine. Like, I talk about like school and how you're going to be in school the rest of your life. And when you stop going to school, you start getting schooled. It's your choice. Everything's a choice. And I started watching those same problems go younger and younger. And so I love high schools. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh, you're starting to get booked in middle schools. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I don't know if I really connect with middle schoolers. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing the same problems. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, elementary schools. And I'm like seeing the same problems, the anxiety, depression, like the technology withdrawals. And so I start really realizing that everyone's an addict. Like, these things are making us addicts. And I'm like, I'm a former addict. I understand it. And then I start treating everyone like they're an addict. And this is when compassion and empathy starts just pouring out, because I'm like, okay, so you're addicted to work, you're addicted to money, you're addicted to being fame, you're addicted to yoga. You can be addicted to anything, and the only safe thing to be addicted to is Christ Jesus, because it doesn't come back void. It has power. There's things that come with it. But once I started treating everyone like an addict, I started really being able to connect with everyone a little bit more.
That's cool. So you're doing that, and then at some point, I don't, it's such a cheesy thing to say, but this idea of ministry, like you said, which is just work and really going out and sharing your faith, you meet some folks that form a group.
Yeah.
What are they called? Who are they?
Yeah, the Whosoevers. Yeah, no. So Ryan Reese, Sonny Sandoval, Brian Head Welsh, they got together. They had Radical Transformation. Sonny is the lead singer of POD, still on tour, rocking out. Great new album out. Brian Head Welsh, the lead guitarist for Korn, a former meth head that found Jesus. Ryan Reese, he was the team manager for Circa, and he was in the scene, and all of a sudden they get radically transformed, and they get together and they're looking for like-minded people. And honestly, I met a guy in Hollywood who was an agent, like, and I don't know why all agents talk really weird, but they do. They're like so cool. And he was like, "Hey, you sound like Ryan Reese," and he goes, "Do you know him?" I'm like, "I don't know who you're talking about."
I know Raw Reese.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know Ryan. So I do a little quick search, and I see that he has a radio show, and I see him, I'm like, "Oh, he's cool," and he's interviewing Lance Mountain, he's interviewing all these guys that I look up to. And and he goes, "Do you mind if I put a text together?" He puts the text together, and whenever there's a three-way text, you're like, "Cool, nice, thumbs up, great,
good to meet you."
Yeah, right on.
Make a little joke.
Exactly. But I was praying, and I was like, "All right, Lord, I don't need any more bros in my life, but if you're putting me together with Ryan, like, I'm all for it, and I'm not going to call him until you give me the green light." And so as I'm praying and stuff, I'm like, "Lord, should I call Ryan?" I get the green light, and I'm like, "All right, call him." And we hit it off. And then he's like, "You should come on tour with us." And I get jumped in Idaho. We're in the heart of the pandemic, and we're doing ministry and watching the gospel change lives, and just people getting transformed by the renewing of their mind and set free in Jesus' name. And I'm like, dude, this is rad. We're gospel gangsters. And so then, we just started hanging out. And so the Whosoevers, they're a group of guys that just are not posers. We just speak it the way it is, and gospel gangsters, and just share the love of Christ. And we're not posers. We're just, this is who we are. We're not ashamed of it. And we go to rehabs, prisons, skate parks, churches, wherever, whoever, whatsoever, we're the Whosoevers. Bums the presidents.
So it's such an interesting thing, I think, for people that are not Christians, and they look at a person such as yourself or the Whosoevers, and they go, "All right, you're going out, you're a group of men, and you're sharing your story."
Yeah.
Can you tell me some things you've seen when you're out there? People's lives changed. Have you seen radical transformations?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people healed. And again, I always tell people, like, they're like, "Why do you got to talk about Jesus?" And I'm like, well, if you saved my life on the battlefield, I would talk about you every single day. You didn't, he did, and that's why I talk about him. And there's power in his name. Like, there's power in his name. So we've gone to skate parks and watched people get healed. I watch people get set free of the demonic. And really, no one argues that evil is real, but they'll argue all day that God is real, and that's fine. But if you ask him, he'll show up. And that's what he did in my life. And I encourage you to just ask him and then watch the journey of transformation happen, because everything else, religion is stupid, right? Religion is man trying to work his way to God, whereas relationship in Jesus is like, "Hey, I need help. I'm drowning, and I need help." And he meets you where you're at and sets you free. So, I mean, I've watched people that are possessed get set free and have peace in their life. I watch people get healed. And it's not me doing it, it's Jesus doing it. So
what do you say to the non-Christians who are skeptics that go, "Come on, man, like, I know you just clarified the difference between Christianity and religion."
Yeah.
But people that are just going, what are you talking about? You're talking about a sky fairy. The Bible's can't be real.
Man wrote it. All that stuff. Yeah.
Like,
right.
What are you talking about, dude?
Well, again,
they're disillusioned with the church. They're like this smiley fella that's living in the mansion that has all the cars,
right,
and is dressed to the nines. It
right.
seems to be more into fashion, and it's dinner and a show. What do you say to people? I
mean, so I just ask questions to anyone. What do you believe in? What do you put your faith? Everyone has faith. It's what is it in? And you can learn a lot by just asking people questions. And I'm an open book, and I encourage people to open the book. You don't read the Bible reads you. And there's nothing like it. Again, the amount of time, the history in it, the eyewitnesses, people say it's written by man. Okay. But it's also written by 40 different men, 66 different books, and it's all together telling about one story from beginning to end to the beginning. There's no coincidences. So do the research. Read the book, first of all. Don't take someone else's word for it. Read it, and just let God be God. He's not applying for the job.
So a Christian believes Jesus is God in the flesh.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, God and bod.
And that is sort of the central theme. It is the central theme of Christianity. How does a person become a Christian?
Well, it says that if you call out on the name of the Lord and believe in your heart that he is who he says he is, that you will be saved. Like, you'll have eternal life. Now, what you have to understand is context. We're in the middle of this thing, right? Like, we're in the mess in the middle, but it was never supposed to be like this. So in the beginning, he created all things. It was good. Then sin entered the world. That's the first time death entered the world, through sin. And then ultimately, God redeemed the world by taking on those sins and paying the price. So you don't have to. But if you want to pay for your sins, he'll allow you to. And that's separation. That's hell. And I was living a hell, and that's why I knew I was set free and I wasn't going to be ashamed of it. And ultimately, there will be no sin again. Like, he'll be like, okay, done. We're finished. It's over. And that's
so you're
eternity.
You're taking this on faith.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Your belief. What do you say to the person that says, Tom, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great, Gillis. That works for you.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
I'm over here doing my thing. I'm spiritual. Why? Why Christ?
Yeah. Well, because he made some claims. Like, he made some claims that were, like, very, very specific. He said he is the way, the truth, and the life. Not a truth, not a way. He is the way, and no one comes to the Father but through him. So his claims were like, he was either a liar, he was a lunatic, or he's Lord. Because he's a crazy, because no one can make those claims. Or he is who he says he is. And if he is who he says he is, you have to submit, you have to follow. And that's what it boils down to. Liar, lunatic, or Lord. Those are the three camps you can be in. There's no other place you can be. And you could be in denial. A lot of people build houses along that river, but it's just not.
Absolutely. In this world that we're in right now, we're both Americans.
Yep.
That's where we're at.
Yep.
We grew up watching this world, and seems like things have gotten crazier and crazier.
Absolutely.
As time has gone on.
Yep.
The idea of sin, it's out in the open. It's celebrated.
Yep.
We love it. It seems like morally our country has gone down the drain. Do you think a revival of people's hearts, people's souls, do you think that's even possible?
I know it is. He says that we are dead in our transgressions. We are dead in our sins. And then we become made alive in Christ. I was a dead man walking, dude. I was filling myself with toxins, with poisons. And then I said, all right, if you are who you say you are, do something in me. Change me from the inside out. I couldn't change myself. I was an addict. And all of a sudden, I'm set free. And everyone thought like I was going to, like, oh, this is a phase. Like, oh, it's just you're self-helping yourself. And I'm like, dude, I just surrendered. And that was 23 years ago. And I'm not going back.
Is there any amount of cash and prizes that could
None.
change?
I tell people all the time, I've had billionaires that have asked me the secrets of life and they wanted to pay me. And I was like, you can't pay me because I'm not for sale. I'm already sold out for the gospel. Like nothing.
That's powerful because we tend to love money.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
In this world,
But it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. Think about it. Like, if you're getting paid, you're bought off, and then you're a slave to the lender. And I'm not a slave to that stuff. I'm not playing games no more.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So when we meet Christians, or if you're a person that's had an experience with Christians that left a bad taste in your mouth, or you went to a church and you went, whoa,
Yep.
These judgmental people, they're saying they know the way.
Yep.
They say I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think there's a lot of folks out there that are saying I'm a Christian that maybe aren't Christians?
I think there's a lot of posers out there, but ultimately God will judge, right? So I always like it this way. God's the judge. The Holy Spirit convicts us. Jesus loves us. We're supposed to be like Jesus. We're supposed to be loved. I love people that call out lies, or that has to. We're in a time where they're calling good evil and evil good. Whoa, like there's a time right now that we're living in that we're seeing craziness, and it's easy to check out. It's easy to be distracted. It's easy to be consumed with social media, all these other things. The noise. You got to kill the noise, and you got to just start asking bigger questions, like, what's the deal?
Speaking of being distracted, by the way, I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah.
I'm only looking at this to look at the time. I am not scrolling through social media.
No.
Checking the likes right now.
We
just wanted to clear
even
that
though
up.
there's a lot of them.
At
least three.
There used to be.
At least three.
There used to be before.
Well,
I told people that I like Jesus.
I like Jesus. Yeah.
I like a Jesus.
Whenever you make a profession of faith, people all of a sudden turn on you like crazy.
But that's kind of awesome. I actually think it's pretty cool.
That's how you know it's real.
Yeah.
Say like.
I think Christians are the new punk rock.
Dude, they're the extreme.
I'm being honest.
Yeah,
that's where I'm sitting.
I agree.
And as I've gone through my journeys and met people, the broken-hearted people that I meet are everywhere. The people that are trying to fill a hole.
Yeah.
It's endless. And occasionally I meet people like yourself who I didn't know you before you were a Christian, but I've known you since. And I've never found you to be anything than who you are, which is authentic, open, honest, respectful of anybody you come across, loving people. And it would seem to me that Christianity should be people being like Jesus.
Right.
Loving people.
Yeah.
And caring for people and taking care of people and showing them what you believe in your faith to be the truth. And I think that as the Christian church has accepted more of the world and said, you can come do this, tried to make it look like the world, it's just gotten more squirrely and more squirrely. And getting back to the basics, like you said, I'm a sinner, I am hopeless,
the word.
There is good, there is evil.
Get back to the word.
I need God, I'm not God.
Yep.
I mean...
Yeah, I really like these two ideas. Like, you can either be blessed, right, or blame, right? We were talking about the blame game, and there are no winners in the blame game. And the way you spell blame is BLAME. Don't be lame. Take responsibility for your life. Or you can be blessed, and you think of yourself less. You're going, God must increase, I must decrease. Like, He came to serve, I'm gonna serve. And when you're blessed, you bless other people, and that's what I want to do.
I love it, Tom. You're doing the Lord's work. That is what you've chosen to do with your life.
Yep.
And I respect it. Honest, real, authentic. There are Christians out there who you're never going to hear about who are absolutely incredible.
They're doing the work.
They're not center stage. It's not about them. It's about other people. And I've always felt that coming from you, and it's been a pleasure to watch you and see your walk, and you've always been there for me, always picked up the phone. Yeah, I see you do it for everybody, so many people, and it's appreciated. Yeah. And hearing your story and your message is awesome. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you reach out, whosoevers.com, I mean, you can go on a store, help us out, buy merch, but we'll go anywhere. And then also just Tom.Gillis on the gram. And I go to, again, schools all over, churches, skate parks, wherever there's trouble, Tom's there on the double. We're the Bloodhound.
I love it, Tom. You're the best.
Right on.
I wish you safe travels.
Yeah, bro.
Keep doing what you're doing. And I wouldn't want anybody else to be my first sit-down guest than Mr. Tom Gillis.
Awesome.
Please check him out. Check out the Whosoevers.
Absolutely.
These are guys whose lives were radically changed by Jesus Christ, who is their Lord and Savior.
Absolutely.
He's the same yesterday, today,
and forever.
Open your Bible.